In the farthest reaches of a galaxy unknown to human eyes, there existed a planet cloaked in shimmering hues of violet and gold. Its surface was alive with rivers of liquid light that danced across vast fields of crystalline grass. The beings who called this world home were as extraordinary as their environment. Tall, graceful creatures with skin that shimmered like stardust and eyes that glowed softly, reflecting the emotions they felt. Among them lived Lyra, an alien girl whose presence stood out not just because of her beauty, but also due to the sleek wheelchair she navigated through life. Lyra had been born different from others on her planet. While most could glide effortlessly over the terrain using telekinetic abilities gifted by nature, Lyra lacked these powers entirely. Her legs refused to obey even the simplest commands, leaving her confined to a specially designed hoverchair crafted by her family's engineers. Despite her physical limitations, Lyra radiated charm and intelligence, often captivating those around her with tales spun from her vivid imagination. Yet for all her brilliance, she faced rejection at every turn. To her people, mobility equaled independence, and without it, one was seen as incomplete, a burden unworthy of care or affection. Her family tried to shield her initially, offering lavish gifts and hollow words meant to soften the blow of exclusion. But as years passed, their patience wore thin. They began avoiding her, speaking in hushed tones about how her condition reflected poorly on their lineage. Eventually, they stopped pretending altogether, banishing her to live alone in a secluded corner of their sprawling estate. It wasn't cruelty born of malice. It was indifference wrapped in shame. And so, Lyra grew up surrounded by breathtaking beauty, yet starved for connection. Her heart heavy with longing for acceptance she believed would never come. One day, while exploring the outskirts of her family's territory, Lyra stumbled upon something that defied everything she knew about her world. A strange vessel lay half-buried in the crystalline sands, its metallic surface scarred by what looked like fire and time. Curiosity tugged at her despite the warnings embedded in her mind about venturing too close to foreign objects. She guided her hoverchair toward it cautiously, her glowing eyes widening as she took in its intricate design. It was unlike anything native to her planet, angular where her people preferred curves, dull where they favored radiance. The ship seemed abandoned, though faint vibrations beneath her fingertips suggested otherwise. As she circled it, marveling at its craftsmanship, a hatch hissed open unexpectedly, startling her backward. From within emerged a figure so unremarkable compared to her own kind that Lyra found herself staring openly. He was shorter than any being she'd ever encountered, his skin pale and unmarked, his features plain save for piercing blue eyes that locked onto hers with surprising intensity. This was no alien noble or warrior. This was a human man, dressed in patched clothing that hinted at hardship. "What are you doing here?" he asked gruffly, his voice carrying an accent unfamiliar yet somehow comforting. His tone softened when he noticed her chair. "And why aren't you moving?" Lyra hesitated, unsure whether to flee or stay. Humans were rare visitors to her planet, often dismissed as primitive by her kin. But something about this man intrigued her. Perhaps it was the way his gaze lingered not on her disability but on her face, as if trying to see past the barrier society had erected around her. Summoning courage she didn't know she possessed, she replied, "I could ask you the same question." The human chuckled dryly, leaning against the edge of his damaged ship. "Fair enough," he said, "but I'm not the one sitting in front of a crashed spaceship wondering if today's the day I finally meet my maker." Despite herself, Lyra laughed, a sound so unexpected and genuine that it startled both of them. For the first time in years she felt seen. Not pitted, not ignored, but truly acknowledged as someone worth knowing. Little did either of them realize, this chance encounter would set into motion events neither could have predicted. Over the following weeks, Lyra found herself drawn back to the crash site repeatedly, unable to resist the pull of curiosity, and perhaps something deeper. The human, who introduced himself simply as Kale, proved to be a fascinating enigma. Unlike anyone she'd ever met, he carried an air of rugged resilience mixed with a sharp wit that often caught her off guard. Their conversations ranged wildly from tales of his travels across galaxies to philosophical debates sparked by their differing perspectives on life. Yet, amidst these exchanges, there was an undeniable undercurrent of tension. Kale's initial wariness of Lyra melted away as he witnessed her kindness and intellect firsthand. However, his attempts to assist her, offering tools or makeshift gadgets designed to enhance her mobility, were met with stubborn resistance. "I don't need your charity," she snapped once, her pride bristling. Kale merely raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "It's not charity if it helps you move freely," he shot back, his tone teasing yet firm. This push-and-pull dynamic became a recurring theme, each challenging the other's assumptions while slowly chipping away at walls built by years of hurt and misunderstanding. Their bond deepened further during one particularly tense moment when a group of local scavengers approached the wreckage, drawn by rumors of valuable tech hidden within. Lyra, sensing danger, urged Kale to flee, but he refused, standing protectively beside her instead. What followed was a chaotic skirmish filled with humor and heart-stopping action. Kale wielded improvised weapons made from ship debris, shouting absurd battle cries that left Lyra laughing even as fear coursed through her veins. Together, they managed to fend off the intruders, their teamwork seamless despite their differences. Amidst the adrenaline-fueled chaos, a realization dawned on Lyra. Kale saw her not as broken but as capable, worthy of trust and partnership. This revelation brought tears to her eyes, not of sadness, but of gratitude. For the first time in her life, she felt genuinely valued, flaws and all. As they sat together afterward, catching their breath and sharing quiet laughter, the foundation of a profound friendship solidified between them. A connection forged in shared struggle and mutual respect. As days turned into weeks, Kale grew increasingly determined to help Lyra reclaim her freedom. Though his original mission had been derailed by the crash, he now found purpose in unraveling the mystery of her condition. Late into the nights, he pored over salvaged equipment from his ship, piecing together makeshift diagnostic tools powered by energy harvested from the planet's luminous rivers. Lyra watched him work, her skepticism tempered by a flicker of hope she couldn't quite extinguish. "You really think you can fix me?" she asked one evening, her voice soft but laced with doubt. Kale paused, wiping grease-streaked hands on his already stained pants. "Fix isn't the right word," he replied, meeting her gaze steadily. "I think we can find a way to unlock whatever's keeping you stuck. Your body might have forgotten how to move, but I bet it hasn't forgotten how to heal." His confidence was infectious, and though Lyra rolled her eyes playfully, she couldn't suppress the tiny spark of anticipation igniting within her. Their experiments became a daily ritual, blending equal parts frustration and triumph. One breakthrough came when Kale discovered that Lyra's neural pathways weren't damaged but rather suppressed, likely due to some anomaly unique to her species. Using a combination of electromagnetic pulses and biofeedback techniques, adapted from Earth medicine, they began stimulating dormant areas of her nervous system. Each session brought incremental progress. First a twitch of her fingers, then a faint tremor in her legs. Lyra marveled at these small victories, her laughter ringing out whenever Kale cheered louder than necessary over her achievements. Yet, progress wasn't without its challenges. On more than one occasion, the treatments triggered intense pain, leaving Lyra exhausted and questioning whether the effort was worth it. During one such episode, Kale knelt beside her chair, gripping her hand tightly. "We don't have to keep going if you don't want to," he said earnestly. "This is your choice, not mine." But Lyra shook her head, determination blazing in her glowing eyes. "No," she whispered. "If there's even a chance I can walk again, I'll take it. For once, I want to stand on my own." Their perseverance paid off in ways neither anticipated. Beyond physical improvements, Lyra began experiencing moments of clarity about her identity and worth. Freed from the weight of societal judgment, she embraced her uniqueness with newfound pride. Meanwhile, Kale found himself transformed as well. Once cynical and solitary, he rediscovered joy in helping others, his interactions with Lyra rekindling a sense of purpose he thought long lost. Together, they forged a partnership rooted in mutual growth, proving that healing extended far beyond the confines of flesh and bone. Unbeknownst to Lyra and Kale, their activities had not gone unnoticed. Word of the disabled alien girl and the peculiar human working tirelessly to restore her mobility spread quickly among the planet's inhabitants. Whispers rippled through markets and gathering halls, painting their efforts as reckless defiance against natural order. Some viewed Kale's interference with suspicion, labeling him an outsider meddling in matters beyond his understanding. Others, however, saw potential salvation in his methods, secretly hoping his experiments might unlock secrets applicable to their own ailments. Among those who took notice was a shadowy faction known only as the Lumina Collective, a secretive group of elite scientists and philosophers who believed perfection could be engineered through selective enhancement. Intrigued by reports of Kale's unconventional techniques, they sent emissaries to observe discreetly. These watchers, cloaked in shimmering robes that blended seamlessly with the environment, recorded every detail of the duo's progress. Their findings reached the upper echelons of the collective, sparking heated debates about whether Kale's work represented innovation or heresy. Meanwhile, tensions simmered closer to home. Lyra's estranged family, once content to ignore her existence, now grew uneasy. Rumors swirled that Kale's interventions might succeed where centuries of tradition had failed, threatening the fragile hierarchy upheld by their society. Fearing scandal and disruption, they convened behind closed doors, weighing options ranging from negotiation to outright sabotage. One elder proposed sending envoys to persuade Kale to cease his endeavors, framing it as concern for Lyra's well-being. Another advocated more drastic measures, arguing that failure must remain inevitable to preserve order. Caught in the crossfire of these machinations, Lyra and Kale remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around them. Their focus remained steadfast on unlocking the mysteries of her condition, oblivious to the forces aligning both for and against their cause. Yet, as alliances shifted and plans coalesced, it became clear that their journey toward healing was destined to collide with agendas far greater than themselves. A collision poised to reshape not only their lives but the very fabric of their world. As the days grew shorter and the winds carried whispers of impending change, Lyra and Kale found themselves at a crossroads. The breakthroughs they had achieved were undeniable. Her legs responded more consistently, and she could now stand briefly with support. But the looming threat of external forces pressed heavily on their minds. Kale, ever resourceful, devised a plan to fortify their position. Using scavenged materials from his ship and local resources, he constructed a series of defensive mechanisms around their makeshift laboratory. Hidden sensors and automated traps dotted the perimeter, designed to deter intruders without causing harm. Lyra, though skeptical at first, marveled at his ingenuity and threw herself into helping him refine the systems. Their preparations were interrupted one evening by an unexpected visitor. A hooded figure emerged from the shadows, revealing herself to be an emissary of the Lumina Collective. Her voice was calm but commanding as she addressed them. "Your work has drawn significant attention," she began, her glowing eyes scanning their surroundings. "We wish to understand your methods, not to hinder you, but to learn." Lyra stiffened, instinctively wary, but Kale stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Learning comes with conditions," he replied evenly. "What do you offer in return?" The emissary smiled faintly, producing a small vial containing a shimmering liquid. "This is a compound developed by our finest researchers. It may accelerate neural recovery, if administered correctly." Suspicion flickered in Kale's eyes, but curiosity won out. After hours of negotiation, they struck a tentative agreement. The collective would provide limited assistance in exchange for data on their progress. Yet, even as they shook hands, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a precarious line, balancing hope against betrayal. Meanwhile, cracks began to form in their alliance. Exhaustion took its toll, fraying tempers and testing their resolve. During one heated argument over whether to trust the collective, Lyra lashed out, accusing Kale of risking everything for fleeting validation. "Is this about me? Or is it about proving you're some kind of savior?" she demanded, her voice trembling. Kale recoiled, guilt flashing across his face before hardening into frustration. "Do you think I'd put you in danger just to stroke my ego? This is about giving you a chance," he retorted sharply. The silence that followed was suffocating, each lost in their thoughts, unsure how to bridge the widening gap between them. Yet, amidst the tension, moments of levity still surfaced. One night, while testing a new modification to her hoverchair, Lyra accidentally activated a feature that sent her spinning in circles. Kale burst into laughter, clutching his sides as he tried to stop her. "Well, at least we've invented the galaxy's first amusement ride," he quipped, earning a reluctant grin from her. These fleeting instances of joy reminded them of why they started this journey together, even as the stakes continued to rise. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden light across the crystalline fields, Lyra and Kale stood side by side, gazing at the path ahead. They knew the road would be fraught with challenges, both external and internal, but something unspoken passed between them, a shared determination to see it through, no matter the cost. The arrival of the Lumina Collective's emissary marked a turning point, injecting both intrigue and unease into Lyra and Kale's fragile sanctuary. The emissary, whose name was revealed to be Silva, proved to be a complex figure, an amalgamation of warmth and calculation that kept them perpetually off balance. She visited regularly, her presence both a comfort and a source of tension. On one hand, her knowledge and resources accelerated their progress. On the other, her cryptic remarks hinted at ulterior motives. Your success could redefine what it means to be whole, she mused during one visit, her glowing eyes fixed intently on Lyra. But wholeness is subjective, isn't it? Kale bristled at her insinuations, but Lyra found herself oddly drawn to Silva's perspective. There was wisdom in her words, unsettling though they were, that forced Lyra to confront questions she had long avoided. Was her pursuit of mobility driven by genuine desire, or was it merely a response to societal expectations? Could she find fulfillment without conforming to norms imposed by others? These doubts gnawed at her, complicating her relationship with Kale, who remained steadfast in his belief that restoring her ability to walk was paramount. Tensions between them reached a boiling point during a particularly grueling session. Lyra collapsed midway through, overwhelmed by fatigue and frustration. Kale rushed to her side, concern etched across his face. "Maybe we pushed too hard today," he murmured, brushing strands of hair from her forehead. But Lyra pulled away, her voice sharp with emotion. "Or maybe we're pushing for the wrong reasons," she countered. "What if I don't need to walk to be happy? What if this is all just vanity?" The accusation hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. Sensing the rift growing between them, Silva intervened subtly, steering their conversations toward broader philosophical debates. She introduced them to ancient texts from her people's archives, writings that explored the interplay between limitation and liberation. One passage resonated deeply with Lyra. To transcend is not to discard what binds us, but to embrace it fully. The idea struck a chord, forcing her to reconsider her journey not as a rejection of her past but as an evolution of self-acceptance. Kale, too, began to see merit in this perspective, though his practical nature struggled to reconcile it with his drive to fix things. Their dynamic shifted as they navigated these revelations. Arguments gave way to deeper discussions, punctuated by moments of levity that reminded them of their shared humanity, or in Lyra's case, alienness. One evening, after a particularly enlightening conversation, Kale joked about starting a support group for misunderstood inventors and rebellious aliens. Lyra laughed until tears streamed down her face, the sound echoing across the shimmering landscape. In that moment, the weight of their burdens lifted slightly, replaced by a renewed sense of camaraderie. Still, the specter of the Lumina Collective loomed large. Silva's visits grew more frequent, her inquiries more probing. She spoke of trials and tribulations awaiting those who dared challenge convention, hinting at sacrifices yet to come. Lyra and Kale listened intently, their resolve tempered by caution. They understood now that their actions carried consequences far beyond their personal desires, a realization that bound them closer together even as it underscored the enormity of their undertaking. Together, they prepared to face whatever lay ahead, united by a shared vision of possibility and tempered by the knowledge that true transformation often requires surrender as much as struggle. As Lyra and Kale delved deeper into their mission, they uncovered truths that transcended mere science, revealing layers of existential complexity intertwined with their quest. Lyra's condition, initially perceived as a biological anomaly, unveiled itself as a microcosm of a broader cosmic imbalance. Ancient texts unearthed by the Lumina Collective hinted at a forgotten epoch when her people were not bound by rigid definitions of ability or perfection. These documents spoke of a symbiotic relationship with their environment, where diversity in form and function was celebrated rather than shunned. This revelation cast a stark light on the societal constructs that had marginalized Lyra, suggesting that her disability was less a flaw and more a divergence from an artificially imposed norm. Kale, ever the pragmatist, wrestled with integrating these philosophical insights into their practical work. He pondered the implications of altering Lyra's physiology not just for her benefit but potentially reshaping her entire civilization's ethos. If they succeeded, would it inspire a cultural renaissance or provoke backlash from those invested in maintaining the status quo? His engineering mind grappled with ethical dilemmas, each decision laden with potential repercussions. Could he, an outsider, responsibly wield such influence over another species' destiny? Lyra, meanwhile, experienced a profound internal metamorphosis. Engaging with these ancient philosophies catalyzed a shift in her self-perception. She began viewing her journey not merely as a path to physical restoration but as a testament to resilience and adaptability. Her sessions with Kale evolved into meditative explorations of identity and purpose. Together, they mapped neural pathways and charted emotional landscapes, discovering that true healing encompassed far more than regaining mobility. It involved reclaiming autonomy over one's narrative. This expanded understanding fueled their determination, infusing their experiments with renewed vigor. They incorporated elements of traditional practices alongside modern techniques, creating a hybrid methodology that honored both heritage and innovation. Lyra's progress accelerated dramatically under this holistic approach, her body responding not just to stimuli but to the profound shifts occurring within her psyche. Each step forward was a victory not only for her but symbolically for every being constrained by arbitrary standards of normalcy. Yet, as their work bore fruit, the stakes escalated. The Lumina Collective, initially supportive, grew increasingly ambivalent. Whispers of dissent echoed through their ranks, some members advocating for immediate intervention to control the dissemination of Kale's methods. Others argued for patience, recognizing the transformative power of organic change. Caught in this ideological tug-of-war, Lyra and Kale realized they were no longer mere participants in a personal odyssey. They were central figures in a galactic paradigm shift. Their burgeoning awareness of this larger context infused their interactions with a poignant blend of urgency and reverence. Nights spent poring over data and debating ethics stretched into early mornings filled with quiet contemplation. Amidst the intellectual rigor, moments of levity provided necessary relief. Kale's penchant for absurd humor often diffused tension, his quips drawing laughter even during the most trying times. Once, while calibrating a particularly finicky device, he quipped, "If this thing explodes, I hope it takes out my cooking skills too." Lyra's resulting giggle fit nearly overturned her chair, a reminder that amidst grand designs and cosmic stakes, the simple joys of companionship remained invaluable. Bound by shared purpose and tempered by collective wisdom, Lyra and Kale forged ahead, navigating uncharted territories both literal and metaphorical. Their story, woven with threads of science, philosophy, and emotion, painted a tapestry rich with potential and fraught with peril. As they stood on the precipice of discovery, ready to unveil their findings to a watching universe, they knew their journey was far from over. But armed with knowledge, fortified by friendship, and inspired by possibility, they faced the future with hearts ablaze, ready to redefine what it meant to be whole. As the days stretched into weeks, Lyra's progress became undeniable, a testament to both Kale's ingenuity and her own unyielding spirit. Each session brought her closer to reclaiming what society had deemed lost, but more importantly, it deepened the bond between them. Their partnership evolved from one of necessity to something far richer, a shared journey fueled by trust, humor, and an unspoken understanding that neither could have faced this alone. One morning, as the crystalline grass shimmered under the planet's golden light, Lyra stood on shaky legs for the first time in years. With Kale's hands steadying her shoulders, she wobbled like a newborn fawn, her glowing eyes wide with disbelief. "I'm doing it," she whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "I'm actually standing." Kale grinned, his own emotions threatening to spill over. "Told you your body just needed reminding," he said lightly, though there was no mistaking the pride in his tone. For a moment, they simply stood there together, suspended in quiet triumph, until Lyra let out a laugh so pure it echoed across the fields. But progress wasn't linear, and setbacks were inevitable. There were days when Lyra's muscles rebelled against her efforts, leaving her exhausted and disheartened. On one such occasion, after collapsing mid-step during a particularly grueling exercise, she lashed out at Kale in frustration. "Maybe I'm not meant to walk," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Maybe everyone else was right about me all along." Kale crouched beside her, his expression soft but resolute. "No one gets to decide what you're meant for except you," he replied firmly. "And if you want to walk, then we'll figure it out, together." It was moments like these that solidified their connection. Kale didn't offer empty platitudes or false promises. Instead, he met her anger and despair head-on, grounding her with his unwavering belief in her potential. And Lyra, in turn, began to see him not just as a guide or ally but as someone who truly understood her, not despite her flaws but because of them. They celebrated small victories with equal fervor, whether it was taking 3 steps without assistance or mastering the art of balancing on uneven terrain. One evening, after successfully navigating a patch of slippery crystal moss, Lyra collapsed onto the ground laughing. "If someone told me 6 months ago I'd be rolling around in dirt voluntarily, I'd have called them insane," she teased, earning a chuckle from Kale. "Well, technically, you rolled into dirt involuntarily," he shot back, earning himself a playful shove. Their bond grew stronger outside the confines of therapy sessions too. As Lyra regained mobility, she rediscovered parts of herself she thought she'd lost. Her curiosity, her sense of adventure, even her mischievous streak. She convinced Kale to join her in exploring areas of the planet neither had ventured before, leading to countless adventures filled with wonder and hilarity. Once, while attempting to scale a glowing cliffside, Kale slipped and landed awkwardly in a patch of luminescent vines that clung stubbornly to his clothes. "Great!" he muttered, trying unsuccessfully to peel them off. "Now I look like some kind of intergalactic scarecrow." Lyra doubled over laughing, only to find herself similarly entangled moments later. Together, they stumbled back home covered in glowing tendrils, looking utterly ridiculous but happier than ever. Through laughter and tears, Lyra continued to heal, not just physically but emotionally. The scars left by years of rejection began to fade as she embraced the truth Kale had always seen. She was whole exactly as she was, whether walking or using her chair. Her newfound confidence radiated outward, drawing others to her in ways she never expected. Neighbors who once avoided her now greeted her warmly, curious about the changes they witnessed. Children would gather around her, asking questions about her hoverchair, "Does it fly?" and marveling at her ability to walk again. To her surprise, Lyra found joy in sharing her story, hoping to inspire others who felt trapped by circumstance. Kale, too, underwent a transformation. His initial mission, to repair his ship and continue his travels, had faded into the background, replaced by a deeper purpose. Watching Lyra reclaim her life reignited something within him, a belief in the power of connection and compassion. He realized he no longer wanted to drift through galaxies alone. He wanted to build something meaningful, something rooted in the bonds he formed along the way. Though he never voiced it aloud, Lyra sensed the shift in him, often catching him gazing at her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher, but one that made her heart skip a beat. By the time autumn painted the crystalline fields in hues of amber and silver, Lyra was walking confidently, her movements fluid and natural. Yet, she still kept her hoverchair nearby, a reminder of where she'd come from and how far she'd traveled. Not just physically but emotionally. One evening, as they sat side by side watching the twin suns dip below the horizon, Lyra turned to Kale with a thoughtful smile. "Do you think I'll ever stop being scared?" she asked softly. "Scared of failing, of falling back into old patterns?" Kale considered her question, his gaze steady. "Probably not," he admitted. "But fear doesn't mean you're weak. It means you care enough to keep going. And besides," he added with a wink, "you've got me around to catch you if you stumble. Deal?" Lyra laughed, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "Deal," she agreed, sealing the promise with a grin. In that moment, surrounded by beauty and buoyed by hope, they both knew their journey was far from over. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, not as healer and patient, but as equals united by love, resilience, and the unshakable belief that anything was possible. As the seasons turned and their bond deepened, Lyra and Kale's relationship blossomed into something neither had anticipated when they first met. What began as an unlikely partnership born of circumstance evolved into a love story that defied expectations. Two souls from vastly different worlds finding solace, strength, and joy in each other's company. One crisp morning, as the planet's shimmering rivers reflected the soft glow of dawn, Lyra took Kale by surprise with a question that left him momentarily speechless. Standing confidently on her own 2 feet, she held his hands in hers and looked up at him with those luminous eyes he'd come to adore. "Kale," she began, her voice steady yet tinged with nervous excitement. "You've given me more than just my mobility. You've given me a life I never thought possible. Will you spend the rest of yours with me? As my partner, my family, my everything?" For a moment, Kale simply stared at her, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, breaking into a wide grin, he pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "Lyra, I've been waiting for you to ask," he teased, earning a laugh from her before turning serious. "Of course I will. There's no one else I'd rather share this crazy universe with." Their wedding was a celebration unlike any other, a fusion of human traditions and alien customs that brought together beings from across galaxies. The ceremony took place under the twin suns, surrounded by fields of crystalline grass that sparkled like diamonds. Friends they'd made along their journey gathered to witness the union. Curious neighbors who once shunned Lyra now celebrated her happiness. Emissaries from the Lumina Collective offered blessings steeped in ancient wisdom, and even scavengers who once threatened them came bearing gifts as tokens of respect. Silva, the emissary who had become both mentor and confidant, officiated the event with grace, her glowing robes flowing like liquid starlight. The reception was a riot of laughter, music, and dancing. Or, in Kale's case, enthusiastic attempts at dancing that left Lyra doubled over in mirth. "You're going to break the ground if you keep stomping like that," she teased, pulling him into a slower sway. He grinned sheepishly. "Hey, I warned you I have 2 left feet. Lucky for me, you're light on yours." Their guests cheered and clapped, their joy infectious as the couple moved through the crowd, thanking everyone for being part of their special day. In the years that followed, Lyra and Kale built a life filled with love, adventure, and purpose. They settled into a cozy home nestled near the edge of the crystalline fields, its walls adorned with mementos of their journey together. True to form, Kale couldn't resist tinkering with gadgets, often emerging from his workshop covered in grease, but beaming with pride over some new invention designed to make life easier, or occasionally, just more fun. "What do you mean it shoots bubbles?" Lyra asked incredulously one afternoon, only to burst into giggles moments later as a torrent of iridescent spheres engulfed the room. Children soon joined their family, each one a delightful blend of their parents' traits. Their eldest, a spirited girl named Isla, inherited Lyra's radiant glow and quick wit, while their youngest, a mischievous boy called Finn, mirrored Kale's boundless curiosity and knack for getting into trouble. Together, they explored every corner of the planet, instilling in their children a sense of wonder and resilience. Whether teaching them how to navigate uneven terrain or encouraging them to embrace failure as part of learning, Lyra and Kale ensured their kids grew up knowing they were capable of anything. Life wasn't without its challenges, of course. Old prejudices still lingered in some corners of society, and there were days when Lyra felt the weight of judgment pressing down on her shoulders. But she faced these moments with the same courage and grace she'd learned during her journey, buoyed by Kale's unwavering support and the knowledge that she was no longer alone. In turn, she became a beacon of hope for others, sharing her story and advocating for a world where differences were celebrated rather than feared. As the years passed, their peaceful existence became a testament to the power of love and perseverance. Surrounded by family, friends, and the breathtaking beauty of their home planet, Lyra and Kale found contentment in the simple joys of life. Watching their children grow, working side by side on projects that mattered, and stealing quiet moments under the stars to remind themselves how far they'd come. And so, their story unfolded, not as a tale of endings, but of beginnings. From the ashes of rejection and hardship, they had forged a life rich with meaning, proving that even in the vastness of the universe, connection and compassion could create something truly extraordinary. Together, they stood as living proof that love knows no boundaries, not of species, ability, or circumstance, and that sometimes, the greatest adventures are the ones we never planned for.